The church is nearly empty at midnight. The pews silent except for the faint flicker of candlelight casting trembling shadows across the carved saints. Anna steps into the confessional, her breaths shallow, her hands shaking, clutching her coat as if it were armor against a world that had betrayed her. When she finally speaks, it isn't the rehearsed litany of sins she thought she might mutter. It is an eruption of grief. Her voice cracks as she confesses not to God, but to the silence and the man behind the screen. That her fiancé, the man she trusted with her future, has been sleeping with her best friend. Every word comes out jagged, raw, more like wounds bleeding than a neat confession. She admits she can't even find words for the shame. Was she blind, naive, unworthy? Her words tumble faster, louder, until her tears choke them off. For Anna, this is less about sin and more about survival. In that quiet booth where judgment is expected, she finds herself unraveling completely, unable to filter her pain. She expects the stern rebuke of religion, a reminder of faith and forgiveness. Instead, there is only silence listening silence. That silence, strangely, is what keeps her speaking, keeps her from collapsing altogether. On the other side of the wooden lattice, Father Michael Carter sits rigid, his hands tightening around his rosary as her words pierce the calm routine of his priestly duties. He has heard countless confessions, sins of theft, envy, even adultery, but this is something else. This is not guilt, but devastation. Her voice drags him out of ritual into something personal, something unsettling. He wants to say something, anything to offer words of scripture or solace, but he finds himself silent, not out of indifference, but because every response feels inadequate against her honesty. And so he listens, truly listens, each sob and broken phrase pressing against the walls he has built inside himself. In the dim light, his tired eyes close, as though the weight of her grief is his to carry too. When she finally stops, leaving the air thick with unspoken anguish, his silence becomes its own kind of answer, not condemnation, not empty reassurance, but the rare gift of space. That quiet presence steadies her, even as she leaves with her heart still torn. She expects nothing more than this exchange, but Michael remains rooted in the booth long after she's gone, the echo of her pain lingering like incense in the air. When Anna steps out into the chill night air, her body trembling as though the confession has drained the last of her strength, Michael cannot help but watch. From the shadows of the church's arched doorway, he sees her pause beneath the lamplight, her face still streaked with tears, her hands wrapped tightly around herself. Something within him stirs a pull he hasn't felt in years, since long before he made his vows. It isn't lust, not in its raw form, but a piercing compassion that unsettles him. Her vulnerability awakens something human, something he thought he had buried beneath discipline and ritual. For a moment, he is simply a man watching a woman suffer, aching to reach out. And that ache terrifies him. The vows he swore were meant to anchor him, yet here he is, shaken by the sight of her walking away into the night. It feels dangerous, forbidden, yet undeniable. In the silent recess of his heart, Michael wonders if compassion has crossed a line into something else. He does not name it, cannot name it, but the pull remains, leaving him with questions that will haunt him long after the echo of her footsteps fades. Anna grew up in a household that was anything but steady. Her parents' marriage was a battlefield, loud arguments echoing through thin walls, financial strain hanging over every meal, and emotional neglect that taught her early how unreliable love could be. From childhood, Anna carried an unspoken yearning, stability, security, a place, or a person she could finally exhale with. When she got engaged, she thought she had found that answer. Her fiancé represented safety, a roadmap out of chaos, the promise of a family unlike the one she grew up in. But now that dream has collapsed, shattered by betrayal from not just her partner but her best friend. Sarah, the one person she thought would always stand beside her. Instead of walking into her future with confidence, Anna finds herself drifting through law school corridors like a ghost, forcing herself through long nights of case readings and endless shifts at her part-time job. Every hour of work, every lecture note, is weighed down not just by exhaustion, but by loneliness. Her once clear escape plan is gone, and all she has left is the fragile scaffolding of ambition barely holding her together. Yet beneath the exhaustion, something stubborn still flickers in her, a desire to rebuild, to prove that betrayal won't define her. For Anna, the stakes are no longer about a wedding or a future husband. They are about finding healing and freedom in a life she must now construct on her own terms. Michael Carter's world looks unshakable from the outside. Parishioners admire him as a young priest with wisdom beyond his years, a steady hand in confessionals, and a clear voice at the pulpit. But beneath the surface, Michael's devotion has never been rooted solely in God. It is rooted in survival. Years ago, his older brother Daniel fell into addiction and died of an overdose, a loss that hollowed their family. Michael entered the priesthood in the wake of that tragedy, not because of an overwhelming call of divine love, but because the church offered structure, boundaries, and control, the opposite of the chaos that had destroyed his brother. His vows became less about holiness and more about discipline, a way to channel grief into something ordered. And for years that worked. The parish became his fortress, the daily rituals his compass. Yet behind his calm smile and respected sermons, Michael harbors a quiet discontent, a restlessness that grows each time. He delivers words of faith but feels them land hollow inside his own chest. His eyes are tired, not from lack of sleep, but from years of carrying the tension between duty and doubt. The church sees him as a rising leader, but Michael knows he is walking a razor-thin line. One misstep, one shift in his carefully contained world, and the control he clings to could unravel. What he does not yet realize is that Anna's arrival in his confessional will be that very shift, the first tremor against the walls he has built so carefully around himself. Around them, other characters form the forces pressing against Anna and Michael's fragile lives. Sarah, once Anna's closest confidant, is not just the betrayer, but a living reminder of the wound that will not close her presence in. Anna's world is salt in every scar. Dean Harris, Anna's stern but quietly supportive law professor, sees her potential beneath the exhaustion, pushing her harder not because he is cold, but because he knows strength is born in the hardest seasons. On Michael's side stands Father Thomas, the older priest who mentored him through seminary and remains a traditional, watchful presence. Father Thomas represents the voice of order, reminding Michael constantly of the sanctity of his vows and the dangers of straying. Together, these figures embody the stakes. Anna is pulled between the memory of betrayal and the fragile hope of a self-built future, while Michael is torn between the safety of discipline and the gnawing truth of his own human desires. Their worlds are primed for collision. Anna is searching desperately for healing, for freedom from the shadows of her past. Michael is seeking purpose in faith, trying to keep his structure from collapsing under doubt. When these two paths cross, the stakes will no longer be abstract. They will be intimate, dangerous, and transformative. What begins as compassion may grow into something neither can control. And the collision will test not just their strength, but the very foundations of the lives they thought they were building. The Sunday service should have been routine, almost forgettable sanctuary where Anna could hide among the parishioners, blending into the rows of bowed heads and whispered prayers. But the moment she steps inside, her fragile sense of calm fractures. Sitting only a few pews ahead, hand in hand as though they were royalty entering their court, are Sarah and her ex-fiancé. Their appearance isn't coincidental, it feels calculated, deliberate. Their clasped fingers and radiant smiles, a weapon aimed squarely at her. Every whispered hymn, Every nod of approval from the congregation toward the happy couple strikes Anna like a lash. The betrayal she thought she had tucked into some private corner of her heart is now dragged into the open, flaunted beneath the stained glass glow of the church. Her chest tightens, her throat burns, and humiliation presses hot against her skin. She cannot breathe, cannot stand to see them in this place, her place of refuge. So she does the only thing she can. She flees. Her footsteps echo too loudly against the marble floor as she pushes past the doors, out into the crisp morning air, tears already clouding her vision. In her rush, she does not notice Michael rising from his seat near the altar, his sharp eyes following her retreat. But he notices everything: her trembling shoulders, the speed of her escape, the brokenness that refuses to stay hidden. And before reason can restrain him, he follows. Outside the church, the contrast is brutal. The air is fresh, the sun warm. Children laugh in the courtyard, yet Anna stands apart, bent slightly as though holding herself together by sheer will. When Michael approaches, he is not the priest striding in authority, but a man unsure, torn between rule and impulse. He calls her name softly, and she whirls around, eyes wet, voice edged with sharpness born from pain. "Why are you here?" she demands. "Why do you care so much?" "You don't even know me." Her words slice the space between them, equal parts challenge and defense. It should have been enough to stop him, to remind him of the line that must never be crossed, but Michael doesn't retreat. His chest is tight, his palms clammy, and yet he takes a step closer, compelled by something deeper than duty. He sees not just a parishioner in need of comfort, but a woman stripped raw by cruelty, standing alone in a storm she did not choose. Every instinct in him screams to retreat into the safety of ritual words, the shield of scripture, but what slips past his lips is startlingly human, disarmingly real. His reply is quiet, almost vulnerable. Maybe that's why I care. "You're not another confessional. You're you." The moment the words leave him, silence falls heavy between them. Anna blinks, stunned, as though she has misheard. Michael's expression betrays the weight of his own slip. He knows instantly that something irrevocable has passed between them. A priest does not speak this way. A priest does not see a woman like this. And yet, standing in the open air outside the church walls, the boundaries that should protect them both feel paper thin, dissolving in the rawness of the moment. Anna's breath catches, not from pain this time, but from recognition. Something flickers in her chest, dangerous and undeniable, a spark she cannot extinguish even if she tried. For Michael, the shock is twin-edged: shame for having spoken, and relief for no longer hiding what he has felt stirring since that midnight confession. They both freeze, as though the world itself has stilled to witness the crossing of a line that cannot be uncrossed. Neither moves, neither dares to speak again, but everything has changed. The parish behind them continues as though nothing happened, hymns rising, bells ringing, but here, in this charged silence, Anna and Michael have stepped onto a path that threatens to upend both their lives. The spark is no longer imagined. It is real, and it will haunt them both. Anna's attempt to distract herself leads her to the church's food pantry, where she volunteers on Saturdays to hand out parcels to struggling families. She tells herself it is penance, or maybe duty, but truthfully, it is escape, something to drown out the hollow ache of betrayal and the whispers of shame that follow her. She never expected to see Michael there as often as she does. At first, it feels harmless. He checks in, asks if she needs help with the heavy boxes, lingers a little too long at the folding table where she organizes supplies. Their conversations are simple: how classes are going, how she's sleeping, whether she's eating enough, but beneath the words lies an intimacy neither dares acknowledge. It is in the quiet pauses, in the way his gaze softens when she laughs despite herself, in the way their hands brush when passing a clipboard. During Mass, Anna tries to avoid looking at him, Yet her eyes betray her, finding his face even when his is lowered in prayer. Each glance becomes heavier, charged, a language only they understand. What began as coincidence now feels like gravity, pulling them closer despite every effort to resist. But gravity does not go unnoticed. Father Thomas, ever watchful, begins to see cracks in Michael's steady composure. The young priest's homilies falter with uncharacteristic pauses. His attention drifts when Anna walks into the parish hall. His footsteps linger a moment too long as he follows her from room to room. Thomas's eyes narrow, his silence heavy with suspicion. Around the parish, subtle gossip begins to ripple. Women in the pews whisper behind their hymnals, noting the way Anna is often near Father Michael, how his smile brightens when she speaks. What begins as murmurs risks becoming scandal. For Anna, the shame sharpens. She questions herself constantly. Is she leading him astray? Is she no better than Sarah, who betrayed her trust and destroyed her future? At night, she lies awake, her mind racing with self-condemnation. Am I destroying him the way others destroyed me? Her heart wars with itself, wanting the comfort of his presence, yet terrified of the cost. She does not yet know that Michael, too, is waging his own silent battle. In the still hours of the night, Michael kneels alone before the altar, the dim glow of the sanctuary lamp casting shadows across his face. His lips whisper prayers, but they are not the words of liturgy. They are cries of confusion, desperation. Why her? Why now? He pleads into the silence, gripping his rosary so tightly his knuckles pale. For years, he has buried himself in structure, discipline, service. Now, with every fleeting touch of her hand, every unguarded smile, those walls tremble. He feels the weight of his vows pressing against the pull of his humanity, and the tension tears at him. His discontent, once manageable, now threatens to consume him. He asks God for clarity, but the only answer is the image of her face, the sound of her laughter, the ache of wanting something he has sworn to renounce. Meanwhile, Anna faces her own pressures at home. Her mother, practical and unyielding, urges her to reconcile with her ex-fiancé, insisting that stability is more valuable than pride. Anna listens, silent, her chest burning at the thought of returning to a man who shattered her trust. Between her family's demands, the parish's suspicions, and her own conflicted heart, she teeters on the edge of breaking. And somewhere in that fragile space between duty and desire, Michael waits praying, resisting, yet drawn to her all the same. The night of the storm feels like an omen. Rain lashes against the stained glass windows of the rectory, lightning tearing jagged streaks across the sky, thunder rumbling as if heaven itself is warning them both. Anna arrives soaked, her hair plastered to her face, her fists clenched at her sides. She does not care that it is improper, that she should not be here. What has been building between them cannot be borne any longer. When Michael opens the door, his expression is startled, his usual calm fractured. She doesn't wait for pleasantries. Her voice cracks with fury and pain. You hide behind your collar, Michael. You linger near me, you look at me like this, but then you retreat into your vows. Do you know what that does to me? Do you know how cruel it feels? Her accusation is not cold, it is trembling, desperate, raw. Michael stands frozen, the storm raging both outside and in his chest. For so long, he has tried to balance on the razor's edge of restraint, but her words cut through, exposing the truth he has buried. His hands tremble, his eyes darken, and finally he breaks. I tried to bury it, Anna, he whispers, his voice hoarse, as if confessing to God himself. But every prayer turns into your name. The admission hangs heavy, electrified by the storm. For a breathless moment, there is nothing but the sound of rain, the pull between them undeniable, the walls of restraint crumbling. The distance between them collapses. Anna steps forward, her tears mixing with rain still clinging to her skin, and Michael, for the first time, does not step back. Their lips meet in a kiss that is both desperate and forbidden, an unleashing of all the words they could not say, all the tension they carried in silences and stolen glances. It is passion, but also grief, a collision of two broken souls finding solace in each other if only for a heartbeat. The kiss is fleeting, but in that instant, both know it is the crossing of a line that can never be uncrossed. And then, like the shattering of stained glass, Father Thomas's voice slices through the moment. He stands in the doorway, his face pale with horror, his eyes heavy with betrayal. The silence after his gasp is more deafening than thunder. Michael jerks back as if burned, his face flooding with guilt, his collar suddenly feeling like a noose. Anna turns, her stomach dropping, the weight of shame crashing over her like the storm outside. Within days, the consequences begin. Michael is summoned by the bishop, called to account for his actions, his once bright future as a rising priest now dangling by a thread. Anna, meanwhile, faces cruelty from the parish. Sarah, ever vindictive, whispers her humiliation into the ears of others, painting Anna as a temptress who destroyed a man of God. What was once her refuge now becomes her trial ground. Every glance a dagger, every murmur a judgment. The world has closed in on them both. When Michael meets Anna again, it is not in a sanctuary, but in the wreckage of their choices. His eyes are hollow, his shoulders slumped beneath the weight of what is coming. Yet for the first time, he does not hide behind scripture or the walls of priestly composure. He tells her the truth, one she never expected. He never truly chose the priesthood out of divine calling. After his brother's overdose, after the chaos and guilt of that night, he ran. He ran from a woman he loved, someone who had begged him to stay, someone he abandoned in the shadow of his grief. He could not forgive himself for walking away, and so he buried himself in vows, believing discipline could erase guilt, believing the collar could be penance for what he had done. It was never just about God, he confesses, voice breaking. It was about punishment. I thought if I gave up everything, love, freedom, life itself, I could atone. But then you came, Anna, and I realized I wasn't healed. I was just hiding. The revelation shifts everything. His struggle is no longer framed as a saint battling temptation, but as a man carrying years of unhealed wounds, whose faith was built on sand, not rock. For Anna, the twist slices deeper than the kiss. She realizes she is not only the object of forbidden desire, she is the catalyst for Michael confronting his deepest lie. Their story is no longer just about passion or betrayal, it is about truth. The kind that destroys worlds before it can ever set them free. The chamber where Michael stands feels heavier than any confessional. The bishop sits like a stone pillar at the table's head. Father Thomas at his side, eyes sharp, disappointed but not surprised. The storm has passed outside, but inside Michael's chest another one churns. For years, he would have begged for mercy, promised penance, hidden his shame behind ritual. But this time, he refuses. His voice shakes at first, but steadies as he speaks. I can't serve God by lying to myself. I don't love him the way I love her. The admission stuns the room into silence. Father Thomas flinches, his face hardening as though hearing profanity, but Michael holds firm. He lays bare the truth he once buried, that his priesthood was built on running from guilt, not running toward God, that his vows were more punishment than devotion, that his silence, his discipline, his control were only walls to keep him from facing his heart. The bishop's face softens into something neither condemnation nor blessing, but recognition, the truth of a man no longer pretending. Michael knows what this means. He is no longer Father Carter. He leaves the collar on the table, his fingers lingering for one last breath before he walks away. It is loss, yes, but it is also release. For the first time in years, he steps out into the daylight not as a priest, not as a penitent, but as a man who has chosen truth over fear. For Anna, empowerment comes not in whispers, but in facing the two people who once defined her worst pain. She does not plan it. It happens at a cafe where Sarah and her ex-fiancé sit, laughing as though nothing in the world had been broken. Once, Anna would have turned away, heart hammering, shame searing her skin. But not now. She walks straight to their table, her presence enough to silence their laughter. Sarah's smirk twitches, her ex stiffens, but Anna's voice is steady. "I don't need the life you stole," she says, clear, measured, every syllable cutting through the air like a bell. "I'm building my own." She doesn't shout, doesn't cry. Her calm unnerves them more than anger ever could. Sarah's lips part, ready to retort, but Anna doesn't wait. She turns and walks away, her chest lighter with every step. The chains of betrayal no longer hold her. That relationship, that false future, is no longer hers to mourn. In choosing herself, she has chosen freedom. When she leaves the cafe, the city streets feel different, not brighter, not kinder, but hers. For the first time, she is not walking away in shame. She is walking toward a life that is entirely her own. When Anna and Michael meet again, it is not in shadows or stolen moments, but in the open, beneath the golden light of late afternoon. There's no collar around his neck now, only a quiet uncertainty in his eyes. She sees not a priest, not a man carrying others' expectations, but someone who has chosen to live with honesty, however uncertain the road ahead may be. They do not rush into each other's arms, do not declare themselves bound by love. Instead, their bond lingers in the quiet pause between words, in the way they both smile faintly, weary but unburdened. "So what now?" Anna asks, half curious, half afraid. Michael exhales, the question settling between them. "Now we see. Whatever comes, at least it will be real." Their future is not mapped in vows or engagement rings, but in the fragile, powerful truth that they have stepped into. Together, they have chosen to face shame, betrayal, and disillusionment, not by hiding, but by standing bare in honesty. Theirs is not yet a love story, not yet a promise, but a possibility. And sometimes possibility is stronger than certainty. The final image is not grand, but deeply human. Two people walking side by side, no longer defined by what they lost, but by what they have found within themselves and the chance, however small, of something new built on truth. Months later, the season has changed. The air is softer now, filled with the hum of spring, the scent of blossoms drifting through the university courtyard. Anna stands among her classmates in cap and gown, her diploma clutched tightly in her hands. For many, graduation is simply an academic milestone, but for her it is resurrection. Each late night studying through tears, each morning she forced herself out of bed when her heart still ached. Each humiliation she endured in whispers and judgment has led to this moment. She is no longer the woman who once sought safety in a fiance's promises or collapsed in shame beneath stained glass shadows. She is her own foundation now. Her mother sits in the crowd, tearful and proud in a way she never allowed herself to be before, while Dean Harris, stern as ever, gives her a small, approving nod, acknowledgement that she has fought and earned her place. Yet amid the applause, Anna feels a quiet longing, not for validation, but for someone who has walked through the storm with her in spirit. She does not yet know that he is already waiting, just beyond the ceremony's edge, in the ordinary light of day. When Anna finally emerges from the crowd, she sees him. Michael stands a little apart from the bustle, no priestly robes, no clerical collar, just a simple shirt and jacket, hands in his pockets, looking both awkward and quietly at peace. He has changed not in appearance, but in presence. The rigid weight of discipline is gone. In its place is a man learning to live not under vows of penance, but under the risk and beauty of honesty. His life now is quieter, but no less meaningful. After leaving the priesthood, he chose not to vanish into obscurity, but to serve differently, working at a community legal aid office, guiding the broken and the desperate through systems that once failed his own family. When Anna approaches, he smiles, not wide, not dramatic, but soft, the kind of smile that carries history. From his pocket, he pulls out a small wooden cross, its surface worn smooth by years of handling. He presses it into her palm and says, "Not a vow. Just a reminder that love, real love, never cages us." His words are simple, but they strike deep. For the first time, faith does not feel like a prison to either of them. It feels like freedom. Anna closes her fingers around the wooden cross, its texture grounding her in the present, binding her not to the past, but to the future she is building. She smiles, not the brittle smile she once forced to hide her pain, but one that is unguarded, steady. She does not fling her arms around him, does not kiss him under the watchful eyes of the world. Instead, they fall into step side by side, moving away from the noise of the crowd into the open streets beyond. There is no grand proclamation, no finality, carved in stone, only possibility, and the freedom to explore it together. As they walk, her voice lingers in memory, a final truth spoken not just to herself, but to anyone who has ever felt betrayed by love, by faith, by the fragile scaffolding of trust. Faith didn't fail me. It led me here to a love that feels like truth. The final image holds not in spectacle, but in subtlety. Two figures walking shoulder to shoulder, the weight of secrecy gone, their steps unhurried, their bond unforced. They are not bound by vows or chains of expectation, but by something far more enduring, the courage to choose honesty, even when it costs everything. And in that quiet shared stride, the story closes, not with an ending, but with a beginning.